All right, welcome back. Episode 3 of the Muni Report. And we have a special guest this week, Marvin,
Yeah.
the leader of the Dog Pound.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's going to be giving his opinions and everything, too. He's got some strong ones after last week because, as we all saw, I think we had a ton of issues on the field, especially with the defense. You want to talk about that?
Oh, the defense was bad.
It was
ugly.
It was very not good. And like we've been talking about since week one is, is it just kind of a period of getting to know each other or, Woods? And to be honest with you, I think it's starting to look more like Woods than it is just the defense. I mean, I understand they still have a lot of growing to do together, but there were so many people that I'm like, why are they there? Or why aren't they there? We still won. Like I told you, you can't count the Texans out. You really can't. Tyrod was, first of all, running all over us, which was not good to see, especially going into a week where there's a young, talented quarterback coming into Cleveland. That's going to be starting.
Like you said, I think it starts with the play calling. We went up against a mobile quarterback for a consecutive week in a row, and Tyrod Taylor. Well, he shouldn't have had a performance that he had.
Not even close.
Yeah, he's hanging by a thread as a starter in the NFL. There's a lot of times that they were playing off ball once again, playing everything over top, where Tyrod Taylor was allowed to get the ball underneath, which is a big problem when you literally had this guy on your team 3 years ago, and you had the same trouble of teams were stacking the box because they knew he could not throw the deep ball, and yet this wasn't happening. You were not stacking the box, you were not containing the pocket, and once again, you failed to blitz. And you paid the price.
We could not get to Tyrod. We just really couldn't. And it's not like he's like Justin Fields where like we don't know much about him, in a professional setting. Tyrod's been around for how long now? We know how he operates. We know how his strengths and weaknesses. You know what I mean? And which weaknesses he has a ton. Why wouldn't we use those? And that was my big issue is where he was able to run all over us, throw all over us. I'm like, why is this?
It almost seemed that they came in underprepared on the defensive side of the ball. You were saying Tyrod's been in the league forever, and they couldn't take away what he's good at. And, you're not stacking the box. You're not containing the pocket. Is that necessarily on the players? No, I think that's more based on assignment. You had one threat on that whole entire offense, which was Brandon Cooks, and he ate us up. They did a good job shutting down the run for the most part.
Yeah, which we talked about last week. So they do have some running backs. We did have that really nice play with Lindsey that they were able to, run downfield.
Exactly.
On the sideline. But we did pretty well.
That's going to happen with young linebackers. That's always going to be an issue where you're not going to be able to read the play every single time, even though you should. But, with a lot of first-year guys that are, just squeaking by to just make the team, there's not too much talent there at that position, with the absence of Anthony Walker right now. And now Sione Taki.
Yeah, and he's out for this week.
Yeah.
Officially, right?
Yeah. As far as the offense performed, I think, with Jarvis Landry going out on the second play of the game.
Yeah. Put on an hour now, too. So.
It took them a while to get things going, get that ball rolling. It was kind of scary. Baker went down shortly after.
Oh, dude.
Shortly after Jarvis went down.
It went to commercial break, and I was like, I was like devastated for like 3 minutes because I didn't know what was going to happen. I'm like, well, here comes Case Keenum and his lackluster arm, and we're going to go, we're just like middle of the road this year. Luckily, hopped back in all good to go. So
the Baker hopped right back in there after that one off that defensive stand. He came back in. I think they ended up scoring the touchdown right after, but
because he ran it in.
Yeah. But it once again Nick Chubb came and saved the game.
Yep.
That offensive line, they got their rhythm, and the hole started opening up. The cutback. You started to see the cutback open up after like the first quarter and halfway through the second. The cutback was there, and that's where they broke that big touchdown. And then finally, one of my big guys there, Demetric Felton, gets his first touchdown.
Dude, incredible. That spin move was like, you couldn't have done it any better. And that's another thing that I'm really liking a lot of the pieces that we've added, but also like we've clearly been working on a lot is finishing games, which I think we had a hard time doing last year. Offensively, where it'd come be the fourth quarter and it'd be like no points or 7 points,
exactly,
and then other teams are just running it up. We've been seeing that they've really been kicking into gear, weirdly later in the games rather than earlier in the games. We've so far we've had a pretty good first quarter, kind of dipped in the second, but then like when the late third and fourth have been rolling around, we've been doing pretty well. So it's good to see that we're actually able to pull out games and score later on in the games, because I think that's a big struggle we had last year.
Exactly. I think a lot of that comes with being very good at running the ball and having an offensive line that can go in there and say, hey, if you're throwing the ball this late in the game and we got the ball controlling the clock, then you're wasting your time right here with us. That's what you're supposed to do. If you got a small lead, if it's a 1 point, you run the ball. If it's 20 points, you run the ball. That's how you close out a football game. You need to be able to run the ball, and that's exactly what the Browns are very good at doing. Now, I think their task is getting the lead and holding that lead. Yeah. I feel like they start off very slow in this past game. Kansas City, they got off to the hot start. It's just keeping that same level of energy throughout the whole entire game.
And I think we're going to be utilizing a lot more Felton, and I think Odell's going to have a nice game. I think coming back, he's really going to have something to prove.
Exactly. I'm excited to get Odell back, and I'm sure they're going to find every way to get him the ball. He's a playmaker. That's why you made that big trade for. That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
But I also think having this time off and Baker's really coming to his own. I think it's before it was more or less like the young quarterback trying to give the ball to a veteran receiver that is top tier. As with now, it's Baker's offense and Odell's coming into his offense. So I think it's going to be kind of a different scenario, not forcing him the ball this time, but I think more or less it's going to be him being like, I'm open, throw it to me, but if not, like, throw it to anyone else, and let's just win this game. And I think that's the attitude they're both going into the game with.
So, a little more thing, a couple guys I want to touch on their performance from last week. The rookie Greg Newsome, once again, I think he came out and played another great ball game. He had a bad pass interference call, but, when you're a rookie, that's going to happen. But came back, almost identical play, and he almost picked the ball off.
It was nice, too.
Yeah. They made a good turn on the ball, and he had that ball in his hands and went up for it. And obviously he didn't come down with it, but, teams are a little reluctant to throw his way.
Yeah.
And, when you're not getting mentioned in games as a defensive back, that's a good thing.
Especially when, everyone's just worried about Denzel Ward, which, in my opinion, Denzel kind of struggled last week. That was interesting to see. But, when everyone's worried about, Denzel, and then, they're throwing to Greg because Greg's a rookie, Yeah, I mean, he's been performing very well, and I think he's going to keep it up. I mean, I think this is, I mean, obviously only the start, but I think it'd be nice to kind of see where he goes.
Exactly. I do want to make a point here about Denzel Ward. I think a lot of it is he's out of position. I don't think it's so much on him. Where he ranks in the league right now, he's only allowing 30% completion against him, which is not very good.
Well, you also saw a lot last week. A ton of he was just so far off.
But how much of that is the actual him playing, or is it the play calling where they're why are we not pressing in these situations or stacking the box?
And that was my issue because I mean clearly he was positioned there, and you can see he was kind of itching for it, being like, all right, I mean I'm so far off this guy, and I think it really was where he was positioned rather than what he wanted, and I think it just falls back into just Woods not. I don't know if he's not know what he's doing or if he's just not utilizing the guys to what they can do and their strengths, and I think that's the issue right now, and I think it needs to get solved.
If Justin Fields is in a rhythm, there is a couple guys on this Bears offense that could give the Browns some major problems. Allen Robinson is a top tier receiver, easily in the top 10. I mean, he's made the Pro Bowl multiple times. He's a sure hand catch. Great route runner. Great size. Good speed. Then you go into the backfield. Like I said earlier, not a great run blocking team, but luckily they have a good running back.
Yes, Montgomery has performed. Last week was a little bit of a down, but he still, I think, had 69 yards, I want to say. He's a good back. He really is. And what he can do with that offensive line is pretty great. I mean, I could imagine what he had our offensive line would be a lot different. But I think, he's definitely someone to watch for because, he can make some plays.
So, Browns offense going into this week, they're going up against a very tough front seven there in Chicago where they have, one of the league's best in Khalil Mack. You got Akeem Hicks there setting up the middle, Eddie Goldman, a great linebacker in Roquan Smith. They're going to give that, the offensive line some problems. But I'm very confident that we'll be able to run the ball. Looking at the back end, a secondary that's had a lot of trouble this year defending the pass. But, there's still a lot of stars out there on that Chicago secondary. And Eddie Jackson, Jalen Johnson. This is a game. It's going to be closer than I think it will be. Than it should. This is a Chicago team that's going to be tough. They're going to give other teams problems because of the skill set. They have good players on their team. How they put this together and the quarterback play. Once again, being a homer. Taking the Browns this week, 24-21, and the nail biter.
Oh, interesting. So, I think again this week, I think Baker's gonna have a really nice performance. I think he's gonna be, pretty accurate. I think we're gonna run the ball, obviously, a ton, and I think we're gonna see a lot of Odell, and I think we're gonna see a lot of Felton.